Today on Locked On A's, reports are saying that Ramón Laureano is not going to be traded. Is that a good idea? A bad idea? What are the A's thinking? Let's get into it, you guys. How's it going, A's fans? And welcome to episode 521 of the Locked On A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, noted baseball fan Jason Burke, and on today's show, we're talking about Ramón Laureano not being on the trade market, reportedly, so we'll get into that. And then later on, in the third segment, we're going to be talking about Joe Wieland, the A's new minor league signee, and how he kind of fits into the A's plans. So that's what we got coming up for you guys today. But before we get into anything, thank you so much for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, and if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube. And then when you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs by opening day. And opening day is not that far away. So don't click, mash subscribe. And then also like and comment below. If you don't know what to comment, just say, so good at baseball, so handsome. That's all I need. Tell me how wonderful you think the show is. There you go. And by doing that, you help the podcast grow and find other A's fans like yourself. So if you like the show, it's a nice way to get other people to do it. If you don't want to go talk to people, I don't. I do this and then I record and I post it. And then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm done talking with people today. And I just really talked at people. So if you like doing that, just comment below. And that's how you spread the word. Anyways, let's get into today's show. Ramón Laureano is apparently not on the trade block for the A's, which might be surprising. If you listen to anybody who talks about the A's that's not from the area, they're like, oh yeah, they trade everybody because they're trying to slash payroll and do this and do that. He's going to make $3.55 million next year. That's money. That's nuts. They have other guys that make much less money than that, like league minimum money. So it's not like they're just trading guys to trade guys. They do it to try and replenish, and it's part of their cycle. It's a thing that they do. So I get tired of that rhetoric from, the national media sometimes. It's stupid, okay? They make the trades. None of them are good. We don't like it when they trade guys, but they make sense sometimes because that's the cycle that we do. It's how the A's have operated the whole time that they've been a franchise. So you kind of get used to it after a point. I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just saying I'm dead inside and I expect it now. So does that mean that Ramón Laureano is never getting traded? That's what we're here to discuss today. But the initial report is coming from The Athletic. It's the Twins beat reporter. I think it's Dan Connolly is their name. He's sitting in my mind right now. That might be the Orioles beat reporter. They argued with the Orioles owner. One of those guys is named Dan Connolly, and I think it might be the Orioles beat writer. Anyways, if you don't know that story, that's a good one. Check out Locked On Orioles for more of that. But basically, in this, it's a whole piece talking about what other upgrades the Twins could make. And he says, quote, the Twins previously looked into A's outfielder Ramón Laureano, but didn't get the sense Oakland was open to a trade, end quote. So that is what everybody is basing the Ramón Laureano is not on the trade block stuff on, is that quote in this article about the Twins. So yeah, I mean, if they're not getting the sense that he's on the market, then he's probably not on the market, I guess. Maybe that was, it says the Twins previously, so it could be that was their thinking a month ago, 2 months ago. It could have been at the trade deadline. We don't know when the previously happened. Maybe their thinking has evolved since. My guess is that it hasn't. And here is mostly why. He's under team control through 2025. So there is no rush to move him other than the fact that he's approaching 30. By every day, he's getting closer to 30, and once he gets to 30, his value is probably going to not look as good, even though he's going to have some team control attached to him. He's 28 and a half right now, so he's got a little bit of time before he hits 30, but if you're the A's and you want to actually end up trading him at some point, you probably want to do it before too long so that there's still some cushion before he gets to 30, because that's when you start looking at stuff and you're like, I don't know that we need to trade for that guy right now and give up, anything of, actual value. So if the A's didn't want to get anything of actual value, they could have just traded him whenever. It wouldn't matter. So what I think that they want to do is they're hoping that he returns to 2019 form for at least half a season. 2019 was his breakout, and that's when everybody fell in love with him. He hit 288. He had a 340 on base and a 521 slug. very good slash line. He hit 24 home runs, had 29 doubles, 79 runs, 67 runs batted in. Excellent season. He had played a little bit in 2018, but that was like his first like real big breakout season. So excellent season. The 2020 season was shortened. He played 54 games. He was roughly league average. He was okay. But then in the last 2 seasons, there's been cut a little bit due to suspension, a little bit due to injury. So in 21 and 22, the only other full seasons since 2019 that he could have played in, he has hit 229, not great, with a 302 on base, not great. 409 slug is all right. And that is in 182 games. So in 2 seasons, he has averaged 91 games. And if you're a team looking to acquire him, you're like, hey, how many games are we actually going to get out of this guy? And so if you're the A's, you want to get the best prospect return you can. So you want this season, the 2023 season, you want him to just hit the ground running, really, is what you're hoping for, I think. And I know that A's fans love Ramón Laureano, but I don't think that being a fan favorite is going to save him, because it hasn't saved anybody at this point. It didn't save Cespedes. It didn't save Donaldson. It didn't save Sean Murphy just a few weeks ago. It didn't save Olsen or Bassett or Manaea or Chapman or anybody is the point. Anybody. It hasn't worked in the past. I'm resigned to thinking that he's probably going to be traded at some point. My guess is the trade deadline coming up, because they want him to restore a little bit of value. I had actually made the argument before the offseason that maybe trading him this winter would actually make sense, because you don't know what you're going to get out of him in 2023. I think the A's have probably a better sense of what they're going to get out of him in 2023, and they're making the calculations that if he can put up a good first half, then they can get X prospects. And that's what's going on here. It's not that he's unavailable. It's that he's unavailable like right now because of previous performance and the offers that they would expect to be getting for that performance for a 91 game a season player who's hitting 229 with a 302 on base and is striking out like 27% of the time. So that's kind of where the calculations come in, I think, for the A's. And they've got to be looking for a rebound season from him in 2023. The reasons that he could have a nice rebound season, there's no pandemic this year, so that's a good one. Also, there's no lockout, so that's point number 2. And also, he doesn't have to serve the rest of a suspension. So those are 3 big reasons. He just gets to like show up this year and then go play baseball. That's all he has to do. Go play baseball well. Go play baseball well. That's all you got to look at. His strikeout rate hasn't been great. It's been like 26.5%, I believe, for his career. Is it like 27.5% last year? So that's a little bit bad. His whiff percentage, also not great. So he needs to just refine his approach just a little bit. Hunts his pitches more. Stop swinging at, everything. He can hit the crap out of a four-seamer and a sinker. You got to hit something else, though, too. He hit curveballs, I think, well in 2019. But hit curveballs, hit changeups, hit sliders, hit something else, and then everything will be better. So we'll see what happens there. Also, I didn't write down any of the actual stats, but I was looking at how he did against the shift and not the shift. When he was shifted, he hit so much better. Like every season, he had a better WOBA, weighted on base average, against the shift than he did with no shift. So with no shift employed, we'll see what happens, I guess, in 2023. And that's why I think this is a tricky proposition for the A's. And we're going to talk about why it's a tricky proposition for the A's to be banking on Ramón to really break out again in 2023, coming up in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season and basketball to the World Cup. They got everything. Bet on Argentina in the World Cup. I haven't checked. I assume that they have some Royal Rumble stats up there that you can place a bet on. Hey, who's going to win? Who's going to be a surprise? Who's going to do some of that stuff? That's right up my alley with my new AEW sweatshirt, even though that's WWE that I'm talking about. It's still wrestling. I still like wrestling. So they've got it all of that stuff over at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and I'm guessing that you do because you're here currently, you can even find those over at betonline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way for you to get your sports betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more because BetOnline is where the game starts. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts, but especially on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe right now. Do it now. Also, like, comment, do all those things. Also, if you could, follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at @JasonB on Twitter. Check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis coming your way each and every day. Whatever news happens, it's at Inside the A's. But let's keep talking about Ramón Laureano and why it's a tricky proposition for them to hold on to him in the hopes of getting my thought being, in hopes of getting a better return for Ramón when they want to trade him at the trade deadline, assuming. This is all speculation, so I'm going with it, but I think that it makes sense because they've got a lot of young guys right now, and Ramon's been like league average, and he's going to be more costly next season. In his second year of arbitration, it would make sense for the A's to want to go for a cheaper option, maybe a better option, perhaps somebody who. If he doesn't do it this season, that'd be 3 seasons in a row that he's been like, he's been good, I guess. But his skills have been not as good as they were a few years ago. So we'll see what happens on that front. But the reason that this is tricky is because banking on any player to do anything good at a small sample size is just weird. Wasn't like Max Muncy bad for like the first half last year and then he figured it out in the second half? This happens a lot with guys where they just like get off to really slow starts. I think Juan Soto, he kind of never put it together last year. I think it happens sometimes where even like great players struggle for a couple of months at a time, and you're like, did they fall off a cliff? Are they good now still, or are they just getting older? Do they still have the skills? I don't know. So if he doesn't rebound, then and this is, again, speculation, but kind of how I read the tea leaves, he could be a non-tender candidate for the A's next winter, I think, because he's going to be looking at like a $5-6 million salary. And if he's been the league average or worse the last 3 seasons at that point, and they're not going to get anything of value for him on the trade market with that salary increase, they could look to part ways or, maybe re-sign him at a smaller deal. But I could see that potentially happening. So it's an important season for Ramón Laureano. But the other guy that the A's front office has said it's an important season for is Cristian Pache. And they actually said that it's a very important spring training for Cristian Pache. And that is because he is out of options coming into the 2023 season, which means he has to be on the A's opening day roster, which is interesting because he hit 166 last year with like a 218 on base. It wasn't great. Not what we were hoping for as A's fans, but for me, I still like him a lot. He's a lot of fun to watch. His glove, I believe in that glove. Some people are out there in my mention saying that he's washed. He's done. He's 24 years old. Give him a second. Not everybody just hits the ground running. The A's, notably, have a lot of guys that usually hit the ground running a bit later than 24. Mark Canha was like 27, 20. He was older. Our first baseman, we'll see if he's the everyday first baseman, but Ryan Noda, he's 27. Looks like he's got some skills. Let's see what happens. Not everybody hits the ground running in the major leagues. The only reason he's out of options is because the Braves do this weird thing. Kyle Muller has only one option left because the Braves like to bring guys up for like 3 games and then send them back, and then they're out of an option, and then they become trade bait, and it's weird, and it kind of screws over the team that acquires them. In both of these cases, it's the Oakland A's. So I don't know. I think that he's Cristian Pache. I think that he's gotten a little bit better this winter. I wrote about that over at Inside the A's, so go check out that piece. But I think that he just needs a little bit more time. He's working on being a little bit more patient, working on his walk rate a little bit. His batting average still hasn't been there, but his on base has been getting there a little bit better. I don't know what his contact rate has been looking like playing winter ball, but I want to see what he can do because he's got a special glove. And if he can hit almost league average, something closer to league average, he's a special player. And I don't want to just give up on him because he's out of options. And that's why keeping Ramón Laureano is a tricky proposition because there might not be room for both of these guys on the roster. I think that I can make a roster where they both fit and they'd be fine, but I mean, maybe the A's want to be cutthroat because they have on their roster currently, they got Seth Brown, Tony Kemp, Aledmus Diaz, Esteury Ruiz, and Ramón Laureano. Those are 5 guys that can already play in the outfield. 3 of those guys are probably going to be there a lot, like Seth Brown. My guess is Seth Brown because you got Ryan Noda over at first, Ramon in right, and then you got Ruiz in center, and then you got Kemp and Diaz who can fill in wherever you want them, or not wherever, whenever you want them to. I guess wherever also works because they're both super utility guys. But if you have Ramon there, do you still want Pache as like a 6th outfielder? I mean, 4th like actual outfielder, but a 6th outfielder, a 6th guy on the roster that can play outfield. Versatility is going to be key for this team, but do you want to keep Pache around if he's still a work in progress? That I don't know. I think that he needs some time, and they've already got Ruiz, who's not necessarily a sure bet himself in center field. But I think that you got to give Pache just one more crack. You got to give him at least a month in the big leagues before you decide to cut ties because he's got some talent, and I want to see him realize that in the green and gold because I think that we would absolutely enjoy him if he hit like, I don't know, 230 with like a 315 on base. And with that speed and that defense, we would love him so much. So he's 24 years old. Don't give up on him yet. Give up on him later. And also, if they do keep both of these guys, Ramon and Pache, along with all of these other options, then Connor Capel, sorry. Where does he fit onto this roster? I don't know that he does. Cal Stevenson, another guy. Brent Rooker, a guy that they brought in. There's 3 other guys there that have some potential that don't have the playing time available to them because we're banking on this Ramón Laureano bounce back. And if he does not bounce back, the A's might not have all of these same options. And there's some talent in these options. So that is why it is a risky gamble to hold on to Ramon. I'm not saying that I want him to be gone immediately. I'm saying it's a risky gamble. I'm just presenting all sides. That's all I'm doing here. So don't hate me. I'm sorry. Anyways, coming up, we're talking about Joe Wieland and how he could fit with the A's in 2023. Stay locked in, you guys. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 before opening day. And, pitchers and catchers report soon. And then before you know it, it is opening day. So you may as well just do it now. Stop putting it off. Just subscribe to the channel now. Also, make sure to follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at ByJasonB on Twitter. And check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis. When news happens, it's at Inside the A's. So go do that stuff. Anyways, let's talk about Joe Wieland, and that is how you say it, even though it looks like Wieland, like Scott Weiland, the Melody Man, which is a deep cut. That is a song from that is a lyric from a Limp Bizkit song, talking about the guy. Oh God, what band was? He's in Velvet Revolver, but he was in another band too. Scott Weiland. I don't know. He may have some troubling stuff. Anyways, Joe Wieland. It's spelled the same way, pronounced differently. Joe Wieland. He was drafted in 2008 by the Texas Rangers. He was traded over to the Padres at some point, and he made his debut with the Padres in 2012. He was also involved in a trade going to the Dodgers that sent Matt Kemp over to the Padres and Yasmani Grandal over to the Dodgers. Big deal. He was part of it. So, he's claimed to fame. He was involved in that trade. He also has made stops since the 2016 season, I believe. I think it was 2017 on in Japan, Korea, and the independent leagues. So he has been around a lot of places, and he's had some success. Not like he hasn't been posting huge numbers, not huge strikeout rates. He hasn't had like sterling ERAs, but he's been bouncing around. He's going to be 33, and I believe in a couple of days. So happy birthday, Joe Wieland. But he did sign with the Tampa Bay Rays last May, and I mean, now that he's with the A's do this a lot, seemingly every winter, which may feel maybe it's more of a feeling than what they actually do, but it feels like they get somebody that the Rays found first, and they were like, nah, he's not it. And then they released some of the A's were like, maybe this guy's it. We'll see. I remember Jamie Schultz being one of those guys, and I was very invested in Jamie Schultz, I believe in 2020. And he didn't get called up. So, oh well. And then last year, Brent Honeywell, they traded for him. He was hurt. That sucked. It didn't suck. It sucked for him. I still like Brent Honeywell. He's now with the Padres. Good for him. But anyways, he signed with Tampa Bay last May, and in AAA he got into 12 or not 12 games. He threw 12 innings. He had a 3 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP. And he had a 7.2 Ks per 9, 1.9 walks per 9. And that is the thing that he's been good at throughout his career, and that is controlling the baseball. His walk rate is never very high. I think it might have been 4 a couple of times, but he's been pitching forever since literally 2008. So yeah, a couple of 4s, that's not bad. He's usually right around like 3.2, maybe like a 2.5. So gotta love that aspect of this edition. When he was pitching, and this is, again, a long time ago, and StatCast hasn't really been around that long, but in 2015, he has some StatCast numbers, and that's the only season that he has StatCast numbers for. He was hitting 91 he was averaging 91 with his fastball. He also had a circle change and a knuckle curve. I assume that he has a slider at this point because the slider is the dominant pitch in baseball. So I assume that he's added one of those by now. We'll see. So not a super hard thrower, but seems like a control guy. The A's like control guys. Use Mero Petit, was a control guy. He was also 95th percentile in extension. So that's something. Maybe that 91 really sneaks up on you because of that 95th percentile extension. Maybe it's 95. Maybe. I don't know. So not a lot of stuff to get excited about here, but there's something here, I think. And I think at the very least, he could be a guy that gets brought up to eat innings when the bullpen's gassed. I think that he could be that guy out of the bullpen. Just throw him in. We're going to need, 4 innings from you today, and then we send you back down to the minors. One of those kinds of situations to give the bullpen an extra day of rest. He might pitch really well and deserve more time, or he might just have to wear a game. But I think that is what I'm seeing from Joe Wieland at 33 right now. And hey, all it takes is one outing to really change people's perceptions of you. So Joe Wieland, come on down. I'm excited to see what happens here. And he's probably going to start either in AA or AAA. He went from rookie ball to AAA last year with Tampa Bay. If the A's have more of a long-term plan for him, maybe he starts in AA just to get him more acclimated, get him used to the swing of things. Maybe he's a starter, maybe he's a reliever. He's pitched both recently, so hard to tell. But you bring him up to AAA a little bit after that, see how he can control the ball in Vegas where the balls fly, and then maybe he gets a shot in Oakland. So not a huge signing by the A's, but an intriguing one. You may see him at some point in 2023. It might be a quick something or a quick, cup of coffee, a very quick cup of coffee, but you may see him in 2023. And I thought that would be interesting and worth talking about today. So that's all that I got for you guys today. I am currently in discussions with Cole Irvin about coming on the podcast for a third time, a third straight year. So hopefully that's coming your way next week. So get excited about that because Cole Irvin, great guy. And I'm going to say this right now. First question I'm going to ask him is, so you own a horse now. What's that about? Because he owns a horse now. And I want to know what that's about. So it's the question on everybody's mind right now, obviously. So that'll be a question in there. I may ask it first because I actually kind of know Cole Irvin now. So that'll be fun. Anyways, that's all that I got for you guys today. So until next time, go out and celebrate good times, A's fans, and I will talk at you soon.